Well, good evening, everyone. It's 7:23. It's Thursday night. Kyle, we're in Indianapolis, but you know where I'd rather be right now.
Absolutely. We would be just finishing up probably the first round of hot laps right now. I think before the show, you said you'd be on tantrum number like 2. There would be flags thrown up. No, I'm just kidding. But
But you just made it easier. No Christmas bonus this year, so that worked out real well. But yeah, for what we're talking about is, guys, tonight would have been move-in night and practice night for the Rumble in Fort Wayne presented by Jason Deach Trailer Sales. But instead, but kind of neat. We get to continue to meet all of our Rumble racers. We're tonight here in Indianapolis at the Fatheadz Eyewear Studio.
yeah, I'm glad we're continuing this. I know a lot of people have expressed that to us as well. You know, it's cool that we can still meet the people that would have been at the Rumble, even though unfortunately we're not having it this year.
And I have to put in a plug here. We had this great little promotion we did this year. Even though we didn't have the Rumble, we created this Rumble wear that says, I was there, but between the was and there, it says going to be. And it's really worked out well. And I just do have to remind everybody that that is a limited printing. And tomorrow is a deadline to order those from Indie Screen Prints. So just go to our Facebook page, and the links on how to order the hoodies and or T-shirts is on there.
Yeah, I think this is the first ever un-event tee.
Yeah, and that's what we're calling it.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, we're really excited tonight. Our guest, we're going to Lorain, Ohio tonight, and going to talk to somebody that you're going to enjoy talking to as well. I've known him since he got started in racing, and his dad tried to sue me like 10 times, but he's come a long way. Charlie Schultz from Lorain, Ohio, welcome on board to the Rumble Mumble tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There's so much we can talk about, and we've only got a few, like 20, 23 minutes to talk about it. But let's go back to Marion, Ohio, indoors racing. That was your start, right?
Yeah, Marion was my first start in karting. We had started outdoors that summer, running road courses at both Kyle Atkins's track down in Port Washington, Ohio, and out at Thompson at the Wiseco track. And my dad had heard about the Marion deal, and we drug our straight rail Invader road course cart down there and proceeded to get our asses handed to us. And it was definitely an eye-opening experience, but it was one that I definitely want to go back and do it again. And the following year, we went back with an offset cart and different tires and had a much better prepared program, and we're still doing it today.
And that was, oh Lord, are we looking at what? That would have been back in the 80s, right?
92.
92. Wow, 28 years ago. Well, tonight's got to be a little bit disappointing for you as, well, we'll go into that a little bit different about the kind of a debut you were going to have here this year. But Kyle, I gave you some notes on Charlie, and you just look at all the different cars that he's run through the year. I'm sure you got to have some questions on him.
Yeah, and when I was making the promo for tonight's Rumble Mumble, I called him a ringer, and I caught some flack for that, mostly from, well, Charlie. I don't know if he doesn't think that name fits or something. I don't know, but he's had 36 appearances at the Rumble, and I think he's ran 6 different cars, and I mean, some pretty impressive stats. So, Charlie, why don't you think you're a ringer?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it does kind of fit the karting ringer thing. I mean, that's where I started off. So to come back to it every year during the wintertime it's like I've always told people, it's to keep you sharp for outdoors. I mean, everything's happening so fast indoors. It really keeps your reflexes sharp, keeps your skills sharp. It doesn't matter if you're in a flat cart, a champ cart, you're going around there as fast as the midgets are. And, you try and explain that to people, and until they see it firsthand, they really don't understand it. And, coming up through the ranks from karting and then outdoors, big cars, and then going back and running in the 600s and a midget, a few years ago for Chuck Rancarell at Rumble. It's like it's a homecoming every year.
And that's kind of the neat thing about the Rumble is we start off like with the kid carts at 4 years old, and then we go up to Mike Fedorsik, Junior Gould, these guys that are in their 60s and still racing. But everybody watches everybody. You'll see when the go-karts are out there, the midget guys are watching. And then when the midgets and 600s are racing, you see the little quarter midget kids with their eyes as big as pie shells watching the guys race. So we definitely are missing the Rumble this year. And it's kind of a bitter pill to swallow, but it kind of falls hand in hand the way the year has been going. So we have to wait until December 17 and 18 of 2021 to come back. Charlie, your career is crazy. You've raced just about everything. You grew up, your dad, obviously, with the super modifieds. We're up at Sandusky and working with Joe Grunda and your dad doing engines and everything. And so you kind of bounced up into the super modifieds. But since then, you've gone into sprint cars. You've done some late model racing. Just tell me the story about that.
So I guess, I mean, we kart raced for a number of years, road course, indoors, outdoors. And then when it kind of got time to move up, there was really nothing locally in the area that was a good stepping stone. So we went from the karts, and then we bought a PQ midget and ran in the New York and Canada with the Can-Am series for about 2 seasons. Ran indoors at the Niagara Falls Convention Center, which that's how we got to know the Snyder brothers and, Pete and Donna, and started that whole friendship. And, we kind of pulled back. And back in the late 90s, my dad and I decided to purchase our first full sprint car and put a mild 360 together and went and ran some pavement sprint car races and with the Pennzoil series at the time, which was based out of Indiana. And then we were fortunate enough to run with some cavalcades with the super modifieds, and then progressed up till 2001, and then we kind of parked our family car, and I got a ride with George Schulick. Pat had approached my dad and I about running George's car, and he was racing for Stouts at the time, and George wanted to get back to Lorraine and Sandusky and do some super modified racing, so got in that car and ran that car for about 3 seasons, and had real good showings, won some features in a car that was basically built the same year that I was born. And then David and Lori May approached me about running their car after Lou and Dave McKnight had kind of split the ride for a season, and did that for 12 years. And David shops an hour from my house, and did that drive for 3-4 nights a week for 12 years, and just kind of got burned out. And between my dad and myself and John Reiser, and we decided to dig the sprint car back out, do some updates, and talk to Mike Stryker, who'd done some work on it over the years. And he said, put it together and run it. And we did, and still doing it, having fun, getting to go to a lot of different tracks. And, late model deal with Tim kind of happened as a joke. When Tim was driving the other car for David and Lori, we were at the shop one night working and joking around. I said, hey, when are you going to let me run one of them late models? And he said, how about next weekend? There's a main event race at Sandusky, and it was the middle of July, 100 degrees. I'd never run a late model, and I thought I was going to die. And but it was something that was fun. It was different. It was a challenge. Did it for 2 or 3 years, and Tim and Yvette gave me an awesome opportunity to be able to have the car and basically treat it like my own, and traveled around with the main event series for a couple seasons, and in between the super modified stuff. And it, that was no joke either. I mean, them late model guys up in Michigan, they're serious about their Fender cars.
You mentioned running, karts indoors keeps you sharp, keeps your reaction times pretty quick, which is weird coming from an Asphalt 410 driver. And we've talked to a lot of midget drivers this year that they said just watching the karts out there, and most of the time they're going faster than the midgets. It's just kind of neat that they think the karts are, the craziest drivers out there and how quick they go. So how does that compare to your 410 ventures?
There's, I've kind of compared over the years, when we would run, whether it was the 410 sprint cars or the supers, like at Midvale, which is a tight, I mean, it's a pretty tight bull ring racetrack here in Ohio. And, we'd go down there with the supers or the 410 sprint cars, and they're like, what's it like running that kind of car around here? And I equate it to running an open or modified at Columbus or Marion. I mean, things are happening so fast, and you have to anticipate things so fast, whether you're getting through traffic or you're racing with somebody else. The reaction time has to be there, and you have to be thinking so much farther ahead. It's no different than Fort Wayne. Everybody thinks, oh, it's a big track for go-karts or quarter midgets. It is, but you're going around there in 8 seconds a lap. It's not that big.
And that's with your butt about 2 inches off the ground. Really no suspension. It's basically, it's in your hands. You are the driver. You've got to get that cart around. You can't rely on the shock setup. There's no shocks. You can tinker with tire prep a little bit. You put some nuts and bolts and washers. You do a few things. But other than that, it's the driver against the racetrack.
Yeah, and I think that's why I still enjoy the kart racing. It's so pure. It's you're not going to get, maybe, like you said, somebody that has a better shock program or somebody that has a better suspension setup or whatever. You might get a little bit outdone with tire preps, but it's really pretty basic as far as your adjustability. It's tire pressures, it's a little bit of wedge, it's your corner weights, things like that. But ultimately, it's how smooth you can be in the kart and how you can make the kart react to get around the racetrack.
Again, we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We're with Charlie Schultz from Lorain, Ohio, and a big shout out to Fatheadz Eyewear. And check them out, www.fatheadz.com, but it's the Z, not the S. Fatheadz.
Yeah. Yep,
So.
two different things, but yeah, definitely thanks to those guys for allowing us to do this, and we're going to continue there for a while.
Yeah, we're going to try to keep it going through the summer because there's so many neat things about our racers that we get to introduce to people. They get to see them in a different environment. They get to see them. I kind of like the word that Charlie just used, pure. We get to see them in their pure environment. Charlie, what's the biggest challenge for you at the Rumble?
Sometimes from Friday night to Saturday morning is a big challenge. Depends on where you're staying and who's staying in the hotel with you. Had plenty of exciting nights. I think we were talking a little bit before the show started that, for me, the Rumble in Fort Wayne, I mean, it's the equivalent of our Chili Bowl. Yeah, we're lucky that we get to race more than one night, but you have probably the best talent as far as concrete pavement oval racing in the country. And then you mix in guys that are, some pretty killer dirt guys. I mean, I know Rico's been there the last couple of years. He hasn't had great luck, but, Matt Westfall, I mean, he's definitely no slouch. And, whether he's running a midget or, back when he was running karts, and then you get to see a lot of the up and coming talent, whether it's in quarter midgets or the karts or even the 600s, guys that they're going to progress on, based on some of their talent, not just money.
And there, like you said, there's people from so many different kinds of racing backgrounds that all kind of come to the Rumble in December. What do you think the grab is for those guys? Like, why do we get, all these kinds of people?
I mean, I think it's the biggest challenge is going against, you're seeing how you stack up against everybody else. The karting deal for me, other than just indoors, I don't really do any more outdoor racing with the karts because we're so busy with, 410 pavement racing or, whatever else. But, I like to go back every year and really see how I'm still comparing to the younger generation, I guess. I guess if they start whipping my butt too bad, then I'll quit. But I keep joking with Larry that I'm not going anywhere until he's done. And I still have karts that, I mean, that's all we do is we just get prepped for whether it's Columbus or Fort Wayne. And I don't know, there's something special about it. And it's like I said, I think it's a lot about the people that are coming from different venues there to race, different areas of the country, different talent levels, and then
Do you
you
think
have.
do you think there's like a certain racing background that has a maybe a competitive advantage?
Well, I don't know. I've seen dirt guys go good on concrete, and I've seen guys that race concrete all the time run good there. Um, you try and do stuff as much as you can yourself. I mean, we do a lot of our own stuff. I mean, my dad and I have done our engines, karting stuff, whether it's the clone motors with Jerry Dover, he's helped us out. The animal stuff, Steve Baker's helped us out over the years, but we still assemble our own stuff and break it in and run it. And tires, I do get somebody to cut tires for me, but our prep program we kind of developed on our own. Um, I don't know what is necessarily the biggest draw for people. I think it's not just necessarily the racing. It's a happening. It's a place to be. You get to see so many people from so many different areas.
Well, I won't name any parties on this because it would implicate people, but I've heard about some luggage cart races through the hallways of the hotel and heard some wild stories about that, but we'll leave those parties go unnamed at this point. Charlie, we're all disappointed. Tonight would be the kickoff to the 23rd Annual Rumble in Fort Wayne presented by Jason Deach Trailer Sales, but it's not happening due to the unfortunate pandemic, and we certainly hope that Pete Hunsinger and some of our friends that are inflicted with that recover and do well. But equally disappointing for you tonight is you were going to make a debut in a midget, I hear.
Yeah, we had we were kind of going to keep it a secret right up until the last minute and kind of surprise everybody. We acquired the car that Joe Ligori had that was I call it his third car, that Cap Henry ran a couple years ago, and I think Troy DeCare ran it last year. And we got it basically at the end of the summer, first part of fall, and went through the car and just did some minor updates and cleaned some things up and, stripped it down, thanks to my boss, Kenny Graber. I mean, he did a killer powder coat job on the thing. And, yeah, I was fortunate enough back, I think it was 08 or 09 to run Chuck Rencarell's Munchkin, the new design Munchkin, and with some success. And so it's been a few years since I ran a midget indoors, but I was definitely looking forward to doing that. And then obviously if things were going to work out with the split days on the karting deal, I was going to, run my flat cart one day and a champ the other day, but and try and support the karting program still. But got to be pretty good friends with Ligori over the summer with him running the Must See series with us and some of his guys. And, I was really looking forward to having a real fun weekend.
Yeah, you actually finished P4 in the midget back in 08. So bringing that new car in here, did you have any like expectations on how well you were wanting to run?
The car itself has been pretty successful prior to us getting it. I think our biggest goals would be to make the show both nights, and then to run in the top 5, which I don't think is out of the question for us. The car's definitely capable. I think I'm definitely capable. And then, to have a good showing in the carts again too, you threw up some killer statistics earlier. I didn't even realize it'd been that much, how many appearances I'd made in the Rumble. And, it was just looking forward to having a good, fun weekend, with everything that's been going on this summer and not getting to race a whole lot ourselves. It was going to be a good, solid 2 days of racing.
Well, it's hard to believe how fast 23 minutes go. We're getting close to wrapping this up. It's unbelievable. And Charlie, like you said, you've been racing since, 92 or something like that, you said. And so now I see you around a lot of the younger kids, kind of mentoring them. What is the greatest advice or the biggest advice you would give somebody trying to get into racing today?
Learn as much as you can and be self-reliant. That was one of the biggest things my dad's taught me over the years. don't rely on everybody else to do everything. It's great to have people that can do stuff to help your program, but understand and have knowledge of what it takes to do certain aspects, whether it's shocks, engines, chassis fabrication, setups, tires, everything. Every bit of knowledge that you have as a driver is going to be, the more you have, the better off you are. It's going to just help you in the long run.
Yeah, you going back to like your story and how you got where you were. You've been involved in so many different cars and teams and car owners and stuff. How does one go about making those connections and landing rides like you did?
I was pretty fortunate over the years. I mean, not putting anything against it. I never bought any rides. Physically with cash. It was probably a lot of hard work that I bought rides with. And that goes back to learning different aspects. I've been pretty fortunate. I've gotten to work with a lot of good fabricators, chassis builders, setup guys over the years, and you take all that knowledge in, and you're able to take that wherever you go. And I think that's probably been my biggest asset in racing, is that knowledge.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up here pretty shortly. Charlie, before we go, any big shout outs or any kudos you want to pass along to people that have helped you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously my mom and dad, they've been my biggest supporters since I started. My dad always jokes. He told me when we first started, he says, as long as you keep your grades up and you stay out of trouble, he says, as long as you want to do this, I'll help you do it. And, here we are 30 years later and, still doing it. And I joke with him all the time if we're working on something. I said, do you ever think that 30 years ago when you told me you'd stick with me as long as I wanted to do it, that it would last this long? And, I got to thank my girlfriend. She's there, day in and day out helping us. John Riser, the last couple of years, we've teamed up and had a lot of success. My boss, Kenny Graber, I mean, he's helped us immensely with, powder coat, machine work, all that kind of stuff, and getting days off. We have some pretty good product sponsors, DEI, FK Rod Ends, Kistler Race Products has really, they've really been along with me for a long time. So, and then the promoters and the fans. I mean, those are obviously, the fans are the only reason that, the racing takes place. There's nobody in the stands. There's not going to be any racing. So, it's tough for me to go to watch races and think that I could be out there doing it. But at the same time, those are the people that are making it happen.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. Obviously, we're bummed we're not watching you out on the track right now. We're extremely bummed we don't get to watch you in a midget this year, but we're just building that much more anticipation for next December.
Well, Charlie, we wish you and your family and all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and look forward to, I got to go watch you a little bit this summer, and I got to play spectator this year. Not what I wanted to do, but it was fun watching all of my kids come up from go-kart out on the big track. So we wish you well for 21. We'll see you next December 17th and 18th. And Kyle, I just want to remind everybody that you can't be at the Rumble in Fort Wayne tonight, but you can tell everybody that you were going to be there. Get your official apparel. It's on our Facebook page. And a big thank you again to Rico and Carl here at Fatheadz Eyewear. Kyle, take us home.
Yep, and we will see you next December and also next Thursday right here on our Facebook page.